Hi, I'm Gaylian Barber, and this is my presentation on A Handmaid's Tale, but a Pentateuch's reality. The Handmaid's Tale is a Hulu exclusive series which began in April of 2017. I was prompted to watch the series by one of my colleagues and one of my coworkers, who was stating how much of a biblical reference that was involved in the series and the possible reality of it happening today. The Hulu exclusive Handmaid's Tale is a depiction of Mary Atwood's 1985 novel Handmaid's Tale. It is set in Gilead, and Gilead is a republic um, dystopia that has overtaken the United States. The United States at this time was heavily populated with pollution, chemical pollution, with crime, with greed, with homosexuality, which caused a sharp decline in the birth rate. So there was a conspiracy with the United States president, with the Congress, and with a radical conservative group called the Sons of Jacob, and they conspired together to make the nation great again. And so they overtook the United States government. They negated the Constitution. They invoked martial law, and they revoked the rights of women. That they made better the nation. They transformed the United States from a democracy to a totalitarian government, which required complete submission to this government. It has several biblical foundations in the series, several scripture references noted in the conversations and in their language. The roles of the women in the Pentateuch are greatly resemble those of the women in Gilead. And the laws of Gilead greatly embodies the holiness code concerning matters of sexuality and women's rights. There's a theocracy-based governance system, which means that it's governed by a deity or officials thought to be divinely guided by God or by a higher power. There are separate laws for men and laws for women. The laws for men is that the men cannot spill their seed, which is a biblical reference related to Tamar's brother-in-law who refused to impregnate her. Therefore, in Gilead, it is a sin and against the law for men to have vasectomies. Men are, the adultery is against the law. However, the men, likened unto the holiness code, are able to have sex with their handmaids and also with sexual slaves, which are in this club called Jezebels, and the women there are named Jezebels. The laws for the women are that the women can only have sex with their husbands or with the commander if they are a handmaiden. The consequences of not obeying the law are sort of like what we see in the biblical times. Um, if it like if one of their limbs offends them, it is literally cut off. They are stoned to death. They are exiled from the camp and from society. These are the men of Gilead. This is the hierarchy of the men. The CEO or the chairman is at the top of that hierarchy, and underneath him are the commanders. These are the married men. And then you have the angels or the eyes. These men or serve as law, and they make sure that rules are being followed within the republic. Then you have guardians. These are men that are not married who work at the service of the commanders, either they're drivers or they upkeep their homes or things of that nature. And then you have men that have white collar or blue collar jobs because women are not permitted to work outside the home. These are the women of Gilead. At the top of the hierarchy, I did put children, not because children have any type of power or rank, but children are the prime focus of this republic. That's why I put them at the top of the hierarchy. The wives are next. They're dressed in like an aqua blue color, and they have authority over the persons that are listed on the screen: the aunts, the Marthas, the handmaids, and the colony workers. They are submitted to their husbands, and they control the workings of the home. The aunts are dressed in brown. These are the persons that are responsible for teaching the handmaids and the Marthas how to comply with the rules in the Republic of Gilead. Understand that these women did not come free by their own free will, but they were captured and they were made slaves to this republic. Then you have the handmaids. These are the persons who are fertile, who give birth. And the colony workers are persons who disobey the law and are sent to this colony to work in a radioactive field until their death. Even though all these women have different rankings and different statuses and they wear different uniforms, they all have the same commonalities. They cannot hold a political office. They are all subject to to men. Sort of like in the roles of the women in the Pentateuch, they are not allowed to own property. In Gilead, they're not allowed to read. They're not allowed to have money. They are to survive based at the hand of the men that are over them, whether they're husbands or whatever relatives in their lives. And they must always be adorned in their clothing, which depicts their rank in the hierarchy. The handmaids are the fertile women who can or who have in the past bore children. They are property of the commander and his wife, and their duty is to bear children for the commander's wife who is infertile. They have this thing called the ceremony for the handmaid and the commander when they're trying to procreate or to impregnate the handmaiden. It is a religious event. And all of the members of that household come to this event. Um, and what I found most disturbing was that the commander actually reads a direct biblical scripture from the Bible. It's Genesis 31:3, and it talks about Rachel, how she's having a conversation with Jacob, because we know that that Rachel's womb was closed, and it's about the conversation for him to go into her handmaiden Bilhah so that she might receive children. And at every ceremony in this series, this is the scripture that is read. And these handmaidens, they are subject to the role of handmaidens until they can no longer produce children, and then they are given other jobs in the republic. This is the depiction of the ceremony. This is the wife that is at the head. The handmaiden is dressed in red, and that is the commander at the foot of the bed. The training of the handmaidens is done by the aunts, and then the series, the aunt in particular is Aunt Lydia. And the training center is called Rachel and the Leah Center, which is also in direct correlation to the biblical story of Rachel and Leah, because remember, we understand that Rachel's womb was closed. And so they trained these handmaidens to be at the service of Rachel and Leah. And if they successfully train in this center, they're rewarded by being placed in a commander's home to bear children for his wife and for that family. She is not given the option. Nobody asked her opinion. It is a mandate simply because she is able to reproduce. This is the training center of the Ray and Leachel Center. And you may say to yourself, why don't these women leave? For one, they're under the watchful eye of the government at all times. They have no resources of their own. They don't have passports. They don't have money. They don't have cars. They do not drive. They do not read. So they're at the mercy of the men in this republic. And also it becomes an ingrained sense of normalcy. This is their normal. This is their role. This is just how it is. And also there's a punitive reminder, which is called the wall. And this is where they hang persons who will not comply. And then it shows as a reminder, as you see in the right hand corner, these are the handmaids they walk by. And it reminds them what happens if they do not conform to their rules and to their roles as women in this republic. How possible is Gilead today? This was something I looked at on my own when we look at the position of our current leadership, of our current president, and how he feels about women. And we look at the lawlessness that is sanctioned to justify a greater good in our country. And we also look at the repealing of laws concerning women, the possibility of the repeal of the law of Roe versus Wade with the appointment of the new Supreme Judge Amy Coney Barrett. And we also look at the evangelicals, especially our white evangelicals, and their prophecy of how God is called into this leadership. Also bearing in mind that theocracy that our current leaders has been called by God and is divinely appointed to better our nation. These are some critic reviews that I pulled up. And it says, could the Handmaid's Tale really happen? Isn't the question anymore. The question is, it's already happening. And are we seeking any reason to separate and isolate those who are different? who might not fit in? Are we letting fear make us less free? Absolutely. Absolutely. This is, as I said before, Amy Coney Barrett, which was Trump's candidate for the Supreme Court justice, to give the conservatives the voting power, if all possible, to repeal the Roe versus Wade, which we know is the right for the woman to choose. But God, I just believe that God will pour out his spirit upon all flesh, and that God will continue to utilize women to advance his kingdom. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation of The Handmaid's Tale, but a Pentateuch reality. Thank you.